Good afternoon. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center on campus. And again, welcome to today's advisor forum. We're all in this together, resources for transfer advisors. Today's forum will be recorded and will be posted on the MoState Advising YouTube channel within the next few days. Thank you all for being here. I will turn it over to Campbell Keel.
Thank you, Ross, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Campbell Keel. I'm the coordinator of transfer initiatives in the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, and I'm really excited to be the facilitator of today's forum. My first experience with Missouri State was as a transfer student, and now I work with transfer students every day in an advising capacity. So I feel like I can speak from both personal and professional experience when I say that working with transfer students is a rewarding but sometimes daunting task. Transfer students come with a unique set of experiences, requirements, and needs, but I'm really thankful to work at an institution that continuously strives to improve not only the experience of our transfer students, but the experience of those who work with transfer students too. So in today's forum, our presenters are going to show you some of the improvements that have been made. That'll come in the form of a variety of resources available to those who work with transfer students. We do anticipate that some questions will come up, so we have a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to leave any questions in the chat that you have throughout the forum, and we will answer as many of those as we can at the end. So without further ado, I will now turn it over to our first presenter.
Thanks, Campbell. My name is Nathan Hoff. I'm the Associate Registrar for Degree Programs and Advisement Support. And what we're going to start out with today is a new piece of DegreeWorks. It's called BEAR-PACE, and PACE stands for Pre-Admission Academic Credit Estimator. And what the purpose of this software is for prospective students who are not at the application phase with us yet, to be able to plug in their transfer work or their exam work like advanced placement, international baccalaureate, CLEP, and be able to get an unofficial degree audit based on what they've reported to kind of see how their work aligns with requirements at Missouri State. We softly rolled this out in December, but just kind of made it actively available last week. You can access it in a number of places. The direct web address is missouristate.edu/BEAR-PACE. But as of last week, there are also now links on the transfer portion of the Office of Admissions website, transfer portion of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, and it's been added to the faculty and staff DegreeWorks card in the new My Missouri State that'll be coming in a couple weeks. So without further ado, I'm going to start to share the screen, and we're going to do a short demo of the software so you can see how it works. So everybody should be seeing BEAR-PACE now. I'm seeing some nods. Yes, okay. So this is a pretty simple page in terms of getting started. It's just a button to start and some frequently asked questions, which I am going to show one of them to begin, which is who should be using this? So the folks that may be interested in this would be prospective transfer students who are both actively looking to transfer, or those that may not be transferring for a couple years but want to use this as a tool to plan potential courses they take at their other institution and see how they come to Missouri State. And beyond our current equivalency guide, see them placed in an audit and see what they check off. High school students, parents, counselors who want to see how dual credit courses that their high schools offer, both MSU dual credit and other institutions, see how those would transfer to MSU. And probably most of interest with this group, you're an academic advisor and you have a potential transfer student in your office who hasn't applied yet, but they have an unofficial transcript in hand and they want to know, how are my classes going to transfer to Missouri State? This is a tool that could kind of help work with that student. To get started, you click the Get Started with BEAR-PACE button at the top of the page, which will take you to a shortened instruction page. It's pretty important that in the beginning, when the software is first used, that you do use documentation that we provide. One, just because it's a technology that's new and it kind of helps with some uncertainty, but we've also put some tips and tricks to kind of help users get the most out of the software that they can. There are two things available for most students are what we call quick reference documentation is going to be sufficient, which is just a front and back quick reference sheet that walks you through the steps of doing this. Option 2 is a much more detailed guide that's about 20 pages of screenshots, literally screen by screen, going through the software, explaining how to use it. So whatever level of documentation somebody wants is available, but for most, the short reference will be sufficient. The second thing a user will want to have is a copy of any transcripts or exam scores that they have, so they know what information to enter into BearPace, and then you're ready to get started. So we'll click on the button to go. With this software, there are two ways to use it. One is to just click and go. You don't need to tell Missouri State who you are. I just want to start entering courses and go. The other option is to create an account. And the advantage of creating an account is it allows the user to save everything they've entered and come back for future sessions. So if I'm, let's say, an OTC transfer student who has designs on coming in here in 2 years, I could create this account first semester of my freshman year and just add courses to it every semester that I'm at OTC and have a working MSU degree audit as I go along. To create the account, it's a pretty simple process. Literally, you just have to have an email address, your name, and the password that you want. It is important to know the account is not a Missouri State account, and they do not offer a password retrieval process with this. So if you forget your password, you do have to create a new account. But outside of that, it's a very easy account creation process. For demo's sake, we're just going to get started without creating an account. There are 5 questions that you have to answer to begin using the software. The first one's, what semester do you plan to start at Missouri State? So I'm going to pick fall 24. We have to ask this question, but there's only one answer you can provide, which is undergraduate. Because of the way the university stores graduate transfer equivalencies, it doesn't work with our equivalency system, so only undergraduate programs are available. For the next question, you pick the major that you wish to pursue. In this technology, you can pick one major and one minor. Of course, when you're really here as a student, you can do more than one, but just for software's sake, you can do up to one of each in this. It is important to make note of this where it says, pay attention to the degree abbreviation following the major you select. So as I click on the menu, you'll see that there's a number of options that I can pick. So I'm going to pick Art Education, BSED. Because I picked Art Education, BSED, the degree that I pick on the next menu needs to also be BSED so that everything matches. And finally, if I want to pick a minor, I also need to pick a minor that ends in BSED. So I could go find one that ends in BSED and select my minor. Once I do that, it's answered everything on the first tab. Here are the questions I answered, and it automatically took me to the second tab, which is where I enter my information. So from here, I click the course and/or exam button. And this is where I start entering my information. So for demo's sake, we're going to enter one class from OTC, and we're going to enter an advanced placement exam. So first, I select my school. It's a very long menu to scroll, so I would recommend using the filter, which you can filter by the city or state that the school is in, or the name of the school. We have, for schools that come to us a lot, we've put short abbreviations in. So for OTC, I can type OTC and have that search result come up. So I click on the name of the school. Next, I'm going to pick the course that I want to enter. Again, I would recommend using the filter, which you can use course title, course prefix. So I'm going to type PSY. When I do that, it brings me both results that have PSY in the title, like this educational psychology course, or that have a PSY prefix, like the Psych 110 course, which is what I'm going to pick. So I picked the term I took the course in. So I'm going to say that I took this one in fall 2020. How many credits was the course? It was a 3-credit course, which I would get this from looking at my transcript. I would put my grade, let's say I earned a B, and then the type of credits, quarter or semester. Most institutions in our area are semester. The documentation does provide explanations to the student that may not be familiar with this, that if you were in doubt and aren't familiar with the quarter-hour system, that semester is what you should pick, because the odds are that's what type of credit you have. If I had another course from OTC I wish to enter, I could check this box, and instead of having to pick the school again, I would just cycle directly back to the course menu. But I'm just going to enter this one for now, so I'm going to hit proceed. It adds the course over here on the right. I can click on this pencil if I want to edit any of my information, like I put the wrong number of credits or I put the wrong grade or anything like that. If I decide to put this in, before I take the course and then decide not to, I could check this box, hit the minus sign, and delete the course from my list. Now I'm going to enter an exam. And a shortcut that we've built into the system is if you type the word exam, it will bring up the different exam types available to you. I'm going to pick advanced placement. And for demonstration's sake, I'm going to say that I took the art history advanced placement exam, and the numerical scoring options for an advanced placement exam. The lowest you can score is a 1, the highest you can score is a 5. So I'm going to say that I scored a 5 on the art history exam. So I find the exam that I completed, art history, and I find the one that matches my score, which is a 5. So I click on it. I click the term I completed the exam, say spring 22. The next box is a little tricky because this box wants the number of credits that MSU is going to give the student, which of course, would any of us in high school have known how many credits MSU would give you for an advanced placement exam? Of course not. But what we found through experimentation is that if we just type the number 99 in the box, it's going to spit out the right number of credits on the end. So that way you don't have to worry about trying to figure that out. So the instruction sheets guide the user to just type a 99 in this box anytime that you take an exam. Then you pick your grade, which is the test you took, AP, followed by the score that you got, a 5, and then pick semester credits. And now it's entered on here. Just to save us some time in the demo, I'm going to go back to the main BearPace page, and now I'm going to log in with an account where I have some additional coursework already entered. So you can see now that I've logged into this account, I have several courses entered. So now that I'm done, I can click this button to go view my degree audit. It does not save an audit. It runs a new one every time, which is a good thing, because that way, if the program requirements have changed since my last login, because the student's coming in fall 24, so it's possible there could be a program change before fall 24. So it runs a new audit every time to make sure the most up-to-date requirements are in place in the audit. But I'm going to click the audit button. It's now running a degree audit based on what I reported. You'll notice it looks a little bit different than our traditional degree audit. We think that's actually a good thing because it makes it easier to tell the difference between a real degree audit and a degree audit that comes from this process. But at the top, I have the questions that were asked and the answers that the student provided. And then you see what generally looks like a traditional degree audit for the most part. It's got all the same components. It has the percentage that the student is along. It shows all of their equivalencies that they received based on the information that they provided. It plugs those courses into the various requirements that the courses would satisfy, just like any other transfer work that the student really had transferred to us on a traditional degree audit. So all that looks pretty familiar. As you scroll to the end, you do get an equivalency chart that shows on the left the information that was entered in in screen 2. So like on that advanced placement, I entered a score of AP5, I entered 99. I said I took it in spring 20. And over here on the right, it tells me because of what you entered, you received 3 credits of Art 271 and 3 credits of Art 272. So all that transfer equivalency information is right there for the student to view, along with some next steps that the student can take. They can download this as a PDF. They can click on a screen and go apply for admission. They can also request additional information about the university, so they can supply that information and get more info from us, a variety of different things that the student might want to do. A couple other things I want to show that are questions that I think will certainly come up. I'm going to go back to the transfer tab. One question that is certainly important is many of our transfer students, particularly from Missouri institutions, may be pursuing Core 42 instead of general education. You notice that this degree audit defaults to general education. So it's important that we do have a way for students to see Core 42 requirements, which that does exist. It took some ingenuity on our part to kind of work around some technology limitations. But how you do that is when you click course and exam. We have built Missouri State in as a transfer institution for a couple of reasons. One of those is even if somebody is a transfer student, they may have dual credit from us during their high school time that they want to have a way to get into this system. So not every Missouri State course is programmed in here, but all of those that have been offered through dual credit in the last 3 years are part of this system already. And we can certainly add more classes if we find a need to do so. But those get entered just like any other institution's courses. But in addition, for Core 42, and the instructions tell the user how to do this, we've built a fake course, COR 420. And what the instructions guide the user to do is to pick the term it was completed, which it doesn't even matter what you pick. You type a 0, you type a P for pass, and you pick semester. And when I do that and proceed, and go view the degree audit, now you'll notice as opposed to our previous degree audit, instead of showing general education, it shows Core 42 instead. So a student can control which set of requirements show up simply by adding or removing that Core 420 course. Another question that may come up is students who plan to earn an Associate of Arts degree. So they don't plan on having general education or Core 42 requirements to complete once they're here. So the instructions also guide the user through how to do this, but there are other fake course entries where a student can say that they are planning to earn an AA degree, and by communicating that to the degree audit using the instructions we provide, they'll see their general education or Core 42 requirements are waived off and the block is marked as satisfied on their degree audit. Couple other things that just to show back on the main VeriPace homepage. In the frequently asked questions, one of the most important ones is going to be the kind of devices that you use this on. This technology is not very advanced in terms of its ability to kind of transform to devices. It works fine on like a laptop or a desktop computer. It works acceptable on a tablet, like a Surface or an iPad, as long as you turn it in landscape view. If you keep it in a portrait view, it kind of cuts off the right side of the audit a little bit. And it's really not recommended to use on a phone. It just does not adjust to phone size well and cuts too much of the audit off. So we do provide some explanation on the FAQ about that. Hopefully the vendor will deal with that at some point in the future and make it a little more friendly to work with phones. There's also instruction that if a student can't find a course or an institution that they've taken work on, We have established an email address, bearpace@missouristate.edu, that the student can email this information to us, and we'll work with the Office of Admissions to over time get that work entered into the system. It's basically reading everything that's out on the university's transfer equivalency guide. So if that information gets added, then Bearpace can use that information too. At this point, I'll stop sharing my screen and we can transition into the next topic.
Thank you, Nathan. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Ross. I'm the Director of Transfer Articulation and Non-Traditional Student Services within Adult Student Services. And I'm going to discuss the Transfer 2+2 plans with you a little bit, kind of talk about what those are, what the process involves, how you can access that, what tools we use to build the plans, and just go over all of that real quick with you. So these transfer plans were created to assist prospective transfer students with planning a 4-year guide beginning at their community college through graduation from MSU. Usage of the plans, of course, helps to eliminate missteps in terms of improper course selections, minimizes costs associated with taking the wrong courses. Of course, we all know that not all transfer students have the same journey, so we understand that 2+2 plans aren't going to fit every single transfer student, especially students that have dual credits, part-time students, things like that. But we're hoping that the plans can still be utilized as a guide or a framework to assist with advising those prospective transfer students. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see the transfer page? Okay, great. So on the Transfer Center page, if you scroll down here, you'll see a section titled Transfer 2+2 Plans. We currently have 8 community college partners for which we've developed plans. I'm going to use OTC as an example just because that's our largest feeder school, and I'm going to scroll down here and open up one of the plans so that you can see an example of a plan. We do have plans for every college. We have a total of 55 finalized plans for OTC specifically. I'm going to open up the accounting plan within the College of Business. So if you've never seen a 2+2 plan, basically at the top, we include the date that the plan was modified. We make revisions occasionally based upon typos or different types of issues that we find with some plans after they've been posted. The transfer advisor, we ask each college to identify the appropriate contact up here for the transfer advisor. We include the catalog year here, and any notes that the colleges want us to include are at the bottom of every plan. And then up at the top, you can see that we make sure to keep an eye out for sequencing in order to help students take courses in the proper order to ensure prerequisites are met based upon program requirements. So this outlines OTC years semester 1 through semester 4. And then on the second page, you will see all of the Missouri state requirements related to the specific major for the plan. These plans are reviewed every catalog year. So with OTC specifically, they begin to make their curricular adjustments in March. So I just received those curricular changes early this March. So we're beginning to look at the plans, review them. What happens in terms of processing with these plans is Tara Brissy and a few others in my office. Luckily, I have some great colleagues that are game to help out and jump in as needed with reviewing these plans because it's a lot of work. So we look at every single plan, we make curricular changes every catalog year to make sure that we're staying current with any program or curricular changes. We make those changes, we send them off to our points of contact within each college. And then the college, once we get the approval from our representatives within the college, we send those along to our community college partners. We have a single point of contact established at each community college, and they review the plans. And then when we get a final word from them that they're good to go, they go live on this transfer page. I did want to point out a tool that we use quite frequently when we're creating new plans, especially this transfer equivalency guide page. So say we're creating a new 2+2 plan for something like East Central Community College, and we want to find an equivalency for a comm class or English or something like that. Comm wasn't a good example, but you can see that East Central Community College English Composition 1, English 1113 would be equivalent to MSU's English 110. So we would utilize that when building the plan. Now, of course, some of these transfer equivalency guides can be outdated. So we always want to make sure and double check the accuracy by looking at the community college catalog to make sure that we have the most up-to-date equivalencies listed here. If we do find that there are courses listed in the community college catalog that we think can be reanalyzed for equivalency at Missouri State, we send those courses through to the department heads for review. The department head approves it. We then run those courses through admissions. They update the equivalency guide, and then it will show up on here for anyone who checks it going forward. It will also show up as an equivalence on the student's degree audit once this is updated in the system. So that is the process for creating 2+2 plans.
Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome.
I'm Darren Weinberg from the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Today I'm wearing my Leveraging Technology and Creating Resources for Students and Advisors hat. So wanted to share a couple new tools that we have out and available on the websites. I'll get my screen up here. Also putting in a shameless plug for the new My Missouri State that we'll be seeing here within the next week or so. Resources we've created are called Core 42 Resources for Advisors and General Education Resources for Advisors. Because, you know, truth in advertising, make the name match what it is. Showing off the Core 42 Resources page. How many times as an advisor have you gotten the question, well, what is this class really about? And the course catalog maybe doesn't provide enough information for the student, doesn't exactly fit what they're looking for. So we've kind of expanded that with the help of the departments, offering all of the general education courses, all of the Core 42 courses, and thankfully some of those courses fit into both systems. So you can see the questions that we have asked. Each course has its own PDF document down here in our drop-down menus. We also list, especially for Core 42, if there are other motor codes that will also meet the requirement where we might not have a course listed from Missouri State. All the way down through the list, every requirement. We're going to look specifically at political science because that helped me get to the bottom of the page. These websites also include links to the worksheet websites. I'm also the keeper of the worksheets. I get all the emails about updates, get those posted. The Core 42 website itself. And then also a quick link for any departments. If you notice a course from your department is not fully complete with information, we do still have some courses that we're anxiously waiting to receive that information on. This will access our Microsoft form so departments can provide the extra information for the classes. But to kind of give an example of what the course pages look like, we'll pretend I had clicked on the PLS link. I wanted to make sure it worked ahead of time. So, you know, the course, the title, the associated department, prerequisites based on the catalog, if credit is available through any other means, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, CLEP, any of those options for students as well, because sometimes they don't remember to send that transcript to us. How the course fits into 442 in this case would say general education on the other resource. Information provided by the departments on how the course is typically offered. when, modality, how does the course count in their department or outside of their department? Can students double count the course? And then answering those questions. What is the class about? What benefits are available other than meeting general education? And how could students from other programs benefit from this course? We've also included the catalog description to keep everything in one nice location for that. So every course is available. Most of the courses have these questions answered. A handful we're still waiting on. Would like to receive those as soon as we can. If departments see that updates are needed, access the Microsoft form, submit an update. It's actually turned out to be a fairly quick and easy process to update that information, get that out there on the website. It's usable for advisors. Also, students can access it. We've worked with SGA on this project to get student input. They're excited about having these questions available for use at SOAR, use with students planning to take classes. I've even thought, maybe students might like to justify their choice of a general education or Core 42 course back to their family to say, this doesn't seem like it fits your major, but now they can show why is this beneficial to take this course that might be a little bit unconventional, but of interest. So they're available out on the website. These resource websites are also linked from the general education website itself and the Core 42 website. So outside of My Missouri State, access is available. I will hand off the baton now.
Thank you, Darren. Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Thomas from the Education Advisement Center. I advise all of our undergraduate education majors. I wanted to share a resource today. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the For MSU Transfer Advisors webpage. If not, I'll send out that link for how to get to this page. There's a lot of great resources in here, but one that I want to point out is the Transfer Advising Resource Guide. When you click on that, it's a PDF document that the Transfer Advising Committee has kind of gotten together, and we tried to think about all of those resources and those things that we do and have to look up when meeting with transfer students. So Gina in Art and Design kind of took that information and made it really pretty for us. But all of these are clickable links. So personally, I like to save this to my desktop, and it's just a really great visual reminder of all those things I should be checking when I meet with a new student. Of course, it's linking over to the transfer webpage where you can go back and find that information about 2+2s, like what Jamie shared, the admitted student checklist, which I try to share with students because it has all those steps that they should be going through. Of course, Core 42 in here. I know in our last Core 42 and U advisor forum, we went over some of this information, like the Core 42 overview, what is a motor code and what's the function of those. There's also some helpful tips in here for how to do the what if analysis via the degree audit. So if you're meeting with a new transfer student and you're not sure whether or not they should be on Core 42 or Missouri State General Education, this kind of shows you how to run one of those administrative audits to kind of just compare which is better for students. If they qualify for Core 42, they're being placed on Core 42, but sometimes it's good to look and see if Missouri State General Education would be better for them. Course reevaluations, that's going to link over to the reevaluations and pre-approvals. So if you ever have questions about what can be reevaluated or pre-approved, maybe where that information goes once the request is made, there's some good information in here as well. I know personally when I am advising students to do a reevaluation, my department in education, we use some PEU codes, and sometimes students have a hard time figuring out how to find that. And so we kind of have some differences here, like how do I request for a GEC category instead of just a specific course? Our committee did take the time to try and update this document so that it reflects the new My Missouri State. So instead of the registration tab, it says Transfer Resources Card, so that you know how to find that information. Course equivalencies is just kind of the one-stop shop for all of those links if we've got a student interested in taking courses at another institution, or if you know that they're going to be bringing over some classes. The registering for courses, I know that that is going to be kind of a fun adventure with our students as we approach registration and they're getting used to those new transfer cards. But I know personally, I try and kind of show students how to use not only the trial schedule builder function, but the add drop search for classes. So if you haven't had a chance to practice on that new system, I am trying to do that so I can better help my students this semester. And then down here, just some links that are easily forgotten. The advisor toolkit that is maintained and updated by the Office of the Registrar. So if you haven't had a chance to kind of peruse some of the things that live there, it's very beneficial. The Academic Advising and Transfer Center is linked here. Of course, we all know how to find the advisor forum schedule, but it's good to keep track of what's being offered there. And then all of those main offices and just tools. So the GPA calculator, your major minors, the registration sequence. The main thing to remember is that if you have any additional questions about transfer advising, maybe you're about to meet with a student and you're just not sure of something, know that you can reach out to transfer advisor at missouri-state.edu. Campbell, remind me, do you monitor that email? Yeah.
Yes, I sure do.
So Ms. Campbell will get your questions and then kind of connect you with the right people or the right resources. But yeah, just save this document if you think it would be helpful to you. If you're like me, I kind of take all of these links that I use a lot and I throw them into bookmark folders. And so that's been beneficial to me as well, just to keep organized and to remember all those things when meeting with our transfer students. That is all that I have.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Donna Redman, the OTC MSU Transfer Specialist. My primary role is helping OTC students with their future transfer to the university, guiding on OTC classes to take for their intended MSU major, connecting them to the most appropriate Missouri State advisor in their department, sharing transfer scholarship information, and guiding students through the application process. I'm also here for you and for your current advisees who may choose to take classes through OTC, either in the summer as a new class or repeating a course for grade replacement. I wanted to make you aware that OTC's summer and fall registration starts on March 28th. And that is for all students, their current students as well as visiting students to OTC. And I look forward to helping your students with their OTC admission, connecting them with their OTC admission counselor for registration assistance, guiding them through the process of requesting their transcript, then to be sent back to Missouri State. And if you have prospective students that are going to be attending OTC or that are currently attending OTC, I would appreciate a connection so that we can all partner together to make sure that they are served and guided in a great way, easing your load for me to help partner with you on that and assist them with their future transfer to Missouri State.
All right, well, I have the pleasure of wrapping things up today with talking a little bit more about why I chose to call this forum "We're All in This Together." So as you can see from the myriad of presenters that we've had from different departments on campus, there are a lot of us that work with transfer students. We all have different roles and functions, but we have the common goal of wanting to best serve transfer students in whatever capacity we can. So the final resources I'll show for you all today include contact information for additional people that you are able to reach out to if you have questions or questions about specific topics related to transfer or specific majors. So I will first kind of talk a little bit about the Transfer Advising Committee, who was the facilitator and co-sponsor for today's forum. So the Transfer Advising Committee has representatives from each college on campus, and we do several things related to serving the Transfer Advising Committee, including hosting professional development events every semester, such as the one that you are attending right now. We also typically tend to kind of serve as the quote unquote expert for transfer advising within our related colleges. So I know I frequently will reach out to the members on the transfer advising committee for questions about their specific college, and I'm sure they would be happy to answer those questions for you all as well. We have so many members that I wasn't able to fit them all on one slide. So we've got our first 4 members alphabetically here. We have Yvonne, Nick, and Dylan from their respective colleges, and myself, of course, as well as Gina, Kristen, who you've already met today, and Elisa. So these are excellent people that you can reach out to if you do have questions related to transfer advising in general or transfer advising within their specific college as well. We typically meet once a month. Sometimes the weather impacts that, but all of our meeting minutes are posted on the website. If you ever have questions about updates related to colleges, want to know more about events related to transfer students or things like that, I pulled a random meeting minutes list up here for you all to see, just to kind of get some information on the things that we talk about here. So any updates that are occurring college-wide or that are listed on the meeting get talked about and put on this note here. We also have updates on the forums that we plan or workshops that we plan and events that happen as well. Just kind of a little rundown of what our meetings look like, our next meeting, and then any upcoming events related to transfer students. So this was in the fall here, so you'll see our celebratory weeks there. In our spring notes, you'll typically see reminders on transfer VIP days or things along that nature. So this is just an excellent way to kind of get a recap of what we are doing on a monthly basis and maybe get a sneak peek to what advisor forums will look like before you attend. The final resource that I wanted to point out to you all is the Advisors for Transfer Students list. So this list is kind of a joint effort between our office, the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, as well as the Office of Admissions and Computer Services. So the Office of Admissions and Computer Services work together to make sure that all programs that students could apply for upcoming semesters are listed here. And it is my responsibility to make sure that the contact information for those programs stays up to date. So I will occasionally reach out to departments just to make sure that I have the appropriate contact information. But this is information that gets relayed to every student. So as an example, if a student applies for the accounting major as part of their acceptance package, as a transfer student, they will get contact information for the Business Advisement Center, including phone numbers, email addresses, and office locations. That way they know who they should be contacting for an advising appointment. So sometimes we have centers, sometimes we have individuals, but we do our best to try to make sure that not only program names are up to date, but contact information is as well. If you happen to be someone in charge of a department and you want to make a contact information change for whatever reason, maybe your office moves, maybe you have someone on a short period of leave, let me know, and I'm happy to keep that updated as needed there. So that is all that I have as far as topics and resources go, but I have received a couple of personal questions in the chat. So I'm going to direct the first one to Nathan, actually. And Nathan, this first question was, if a student or advisor has extra questions about BearPace, are you the point of contact for that, or who would you like those questions to go to?
That would be me. So you can email me directly, or just so that we had something easier to remember and to be more student facing. We've got that BearPace at MissouriState.edu account, but I'm the one answering those right now.
Thank you. The next question that I had received is going to be for Darren. Darren, would you be willing to show everyone the Microsoft form that you mentioned if they want to make an update to a class on the Core 42 or Gen Ed worksheet?
Sure, let me do a quick share again and get into that form. It's Pretty self-explanatory, lots of check boxes where choosing all that apply, long answer responses for those open-ended questions. Pretty quick and easy. I get an email every time a course information is submitted through here. We do want to point out at the suggestion from CGIP that updating this form does not circumvent the curricular process or change anything from that. So this is just for informational purposes, nothing official in the catalog or the curricular process, but fairly straightforward on the form, quick and easy. I've had departments fill out 4 or 5 classes within about 15 to 20 minutes and submit those fairly quickly. So always watching for those emails and making updates whenever they come in.
Thank you, Darren. The next question that I had is for Jamie. Jamie, the question was, do all community colleges in the state of Missouri have a 2+2 plan, or are there colleges outside of the state of Missouri that do?
The answer to that is no. Not all community colleges within the state of Missouri have 2+2 plans. We are currently in conversations, Kelly and Ross and Rob Hornberger, enrollment management and student success are coming together to come up with a strategy regarding how we move forward with 2+2 plans actually. So we're currently discussing that right now. North Arc is the only institution that we have signed a master articulation agreement with outside of the state of Missouri. And we have a few plans with North Arc, but not many. I believe there are 2.
Thank you. And final question is for Donna. Donna, do you, whenever you are at OTC, do you solely remain at OTC Springfield campus, or do you meet with students at any of the other locations?
Yeah, I am actually here for all OTC students. I primarily reside on the OTC Springfield campus. I'm here every day, and then I'm down at the Richwood Valley campus on Thursday mornings, but I have connections with all OTC campuses and their navigators and students attending all OTC campuses. So I'm here for everybody.
All righty, thank you. That was all that I had as far as personal questions sent to me via the chat. I'm not currently seeing any messages in our general chat, but if there is anyone who would like to come off of mute to ask a question for any of us, we would be happy to answer that now. Dr. Wood, yes.
Donna, we've used the term course navigators, college navigators in regards to OTC. Can you explain what that is and why a transfer advisor at Missouri State would need to know that?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So OTC just went through a major rehaul and restructuring of how they do almost everything. It started last year, conversations way before that, but it started last summer, and they revamped their advising model, and all advisors are now called navigators. Every OTC student has an assigned navigator. They do not require a student to see a navigator in order to be released for registration, but the navigator is OTC students' person. So I like to think of it as a wagon wheel with the student in the middle. The navigator surrounds the student, and then that navigator is responsible for reaching out the spokes to financial aid questions, to career services, to their equivalent of a food pantry and basic student needs. Anything that the student needs, the navigator is there for. And so, yes, an OTC student will be acclimated by the point that they get to us, having kind of a one-stop shop in services for OTC. And definitely there are changes and transitions for students that transfer from one institution to another. So then helping us navigate and guide students through our opportunities and resources available to them, and how to make those processes work is helpful too.
All All right, not seeing any additional questions at this time, I will pass it back to Ross. As mentioned, feel free to email questions to any of the presenters today, any members of the Transfer Advising Committee, but we appreciate you being here today.
Yes, thanks, Campbell. And again, thank you for facilitating this session. Thank you for chairing the Transfer Advising Committee on campus. And thank all the presenters today for sharing information that can definitely benefit us when working with transfer students and even when working with Native students. Again, thank you all for participating and being present today at our advisor forum. Please join us on March 22nd for the Master Advisor Reception. Everyone have a wonderful day.